Disney plans on closing 60 brick and mortar stores across North America. Candace Owens rips into AOC for her minimum wage comments. And Generation Z wants to cancel Eminem. And I have a lot to say about that. Our lead story of the day is regarding Disney and how they plan on closing 60 brick and mortar stores across North America. Now, this does not come as a big surprise, especially how the government across the globe, but especially the United States government, has shut down these businesses from allowing customers to come in and purchase the businesses' product or services from them. What businesses are having to do is they're having to pull back and now kind of think about how they're going to recoup those losses that they had during the pandemic. And one of those avenues is unfortunately getting rid of these brick and mortar stores, laying off thousands of people or definitely hundreds of people depending on the size of the business, and then now transitioning that business from brick and mortar to online. This lead story regarding Disney is coming from our friends over at the Daily Wire. If you're not already a subscriber, please go over and become a member today. It's titled Disney Closing 60 Brick and Mortar Stores. The article starts off by saying the Walt Disney Company announced on Wednesday that it plans to permanently shut down at least 60 Disney stores located in North America over the course of 2021. The company reportedly plans to shift more heavily into online sales and limit the number of physical locations that currently act as its stores. The pandemic has changed how many people shop, creating more of an incentive to buy online items and avoid stores to maintain social distancing and quarantine guidelines. In the short term, this is a great move by Disney, but in the long term, I expect the purchasing behavior of the consumer to change and kind of revolt back to what it was pre-COVID. Something we have to keep in mind is that the consumer purchasing behavior that was taking place during COVID was happening due to unnatural forces or causes. And what I mean by that is that it was the government that was stepping in and restricting this purchasing behavior from happening at a brick and mortar store. And so the consumer had to find other alternatives to buying their products or services. And that alternative was the online retail stores. Once we remove these unnatural forces, what we can expect to see in the long term is that the consumer purchasing behavior is going to revolt back to what it was pre-COVID, but not in the same magnitude as it was pre-COVID. What I mean by that is this. Because the government forced these businesses to shut down, some of them are not going to reopen again. Some of them have taken on massive losses, like Disney, and are going to shut down some of their brick and mortar stores. But because of the availability of those brick and mortar stores has now declined or been restricted because of the losses these businesses have taken, the consumer has no choice but to go to the online retail stores, maybe to support their favorite company or buy their favorite products and services from the companies that they like and the companies that they enjoyed who once had that brick and mortar store. The article goes on to say, according to the Wall Street Journal, this has affected many retailers that thrive off an in-person store environment, such as shopping malls, which have suffered losses. However, retailers that operate mostly over the internet have done well. The Wall Street Journal reports that corporations like Amazon, Target, which has scaled up its e-commerce business, have seen their fortunes soar as consumers become more dependent on online shopping. Now, again, it wasn't that these consumers had a choice. They were forced into going online shopping. But you're going to see a portion of these online shoppers transition back into brick and mortar stores. But you're going to also see those shoppers that were used to brick and mortar stores, thought that they liked it, but now had experienced online retail stores and will transition away from going into brick and mortar into online. And so we're going to see some changes both in the short term, but the long term. But in the grand scheme of things, we do again expect that consumer purchasing behavior to revolt back to what it was pre-COVID somewhat. Again, somewhat. In a report on retail e-commerce estimates, the U.S. Department of Commerce stated the total e-commerce sales for 2020 were estimated at $791 billion, which is up 32% from 2019. Total retail sales in 2020 only went up 3.4% from 2019. Well, I wonder why, because the government shut down everything. People didn't have an opportunity to go into retail stores. E-commerce sales in 2020 accounted for 14% of total sales, which the e-commerce sales of 2019 reportedly only made up 11% of total sales. Disney has about 300 stores around the world, but the company did not say how many stores are owned in North America. The decision to close 20% of its total locations is a significant shift. CNBC reports Disney's plan is to start by shuttering 1/5 of its Disney store footprint and to elevate where other closures may need to take place. The company is looking at Europe in particular as a place to make significant reductions. Towards the end of the article, it says, according to a Disney spokesperson, each of the Disney stores that will be closing down was affected by the COVID-19 pandemic and was forced to shut down during lockdowns, as reported by the Wall Street Journal. With Disney's theme parks encountering disruptions and closures during the pandemic, sales of its merchandise at those locations have also suffered. In November 2020, Disney reportedly also started up online stores in other countries such as India, New Zealand, and Australia. Disney did not announce which brick-and-mortar stores would be closing and is expected to provide more details about its website changes and product expansion at some point in the future. I'll be honest, it is really hard to read articles like this and hear stories like this because you can't help but think about the mom and pop shops that went under and permanently closed their doors because of the pandemic, because of the government decided to close down businesses and not allow people to shop at their retail stores or come into their businesses and purchase their products or services. And you really see the power of the government and why conservatives don't like giving the government power because of things like this. My hope is people can see that the government at times has way too much power and that it shouldn't be up to the government to shut down the business. It should be up to the business owner who owns the business, who put all the risk into the business to decide whether they should shut down or stay open. My last little bit about this article is that when the economy does open back up, let's go find these mom and pop shops and let's support them. Let's give them our business and help them out because they've been suffering for so long. Our next story of the day is regarding Candace Owens and how she rips into AOC for AOC's comments on minimum wage. I've done a few episodes now regarding minimum wage and what I think about Joe Biden and the Democrats raising the minimum wage, specifically the federal minimum wage, from $7.25 to $15 an hour. If you want to see my opinions on that, I'll go ahead and link a card as well as in the description. Please go ahead and check that out and share it with your friends and family if you find it interesting. This article is written by Hank Barron over at the Daily Wire. He titles it, "We Should Give Her the Nobel Peace Prize in Economics. Candace Owens rips AOC on minimum wage comments." Hank writes, after AOC criticized Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough for ruling that a minimum wage should not be included in the COVID-19 relief package, she was slammed by various conservatives, including author Candace Owens, who asserted, "We should give her the Nobel Prize in Economics." I like Candace. She's such a smart aleck. But you know the left is going crazy over stuff like this just because they can't take a joke or they can't handle sarcasm, even though there's probably not much sarcasm here because AOC says some crazy stuff and nobody on the left wants to acknowledge it. But McDonough was right in regards to not putting the minimum wage in the COVID relief package because the minimum wage increase has nothing to do with government spending. And she made the right choice here of leaving it out. And now the Democrats are all upset because they didn't get their way. The article goes on to say, on Tuesday night, AOC tweeted, "It is utterly embarrassing that pay people enough to live is a stance that's even up for debate. Override the parliamentarian and raise the wage. McD's workers in Denmark are paid $22 per hour plus 6 weeks paid vacation. $15 per hour is a compromise, a big one considering the phase-in." If you want to know my opinion on minimum wage, I did a video on it, and I personally feel like I destroyed the minimum wage argument, but I also used this Denmark example in the video, so I'll link it in the cards above, and if you can't find it in the card above, just check out one of my older videos and you'll see it there. What the left love to do is take a sample that is not reflective of the population, but treat it as if it was reflective of the population. In another example, the left love to use outliers and apply it to the data set as a whole as if the outlier is the standard, but in reality, the data set's a standard and not the outlier, hence why it's called an outlier. And that's exactly what she's doing here. McDonald's is an outlier in terms of a corporation that's able to eat the costs of a minimum wage increase. The United States is primarily made up of 80 to 90% small businesses that have 20 employees or less. The argument is not about McDonald's or corporations or the outliers able to eat the costs of a minimum wage increase. The argument, or at least a part of the argument, is about if the small businesses can eat the costs of a minimum wage increase. It goes on to say, in response to AOC's reference to Denmark, the Daily Mail noted Denmark does not have a federally mandated minimum wage. Instead, it has a strong trade union presence where individual industries and workers negotiate fair salaries on a sector-by-sector basis. I don't want to go too far into this because I've already given my opinion on Denmark and their trade unions, but my question is always, fair to whom? The reason why I say that is because trade unions are technically negotiating on the collective rather than the individual. So for example, just say if I was in a union as a teacher, the union might negotiate my pay, say $60,000. They might say that my labor is worth $60,000 on the collective level. But in actuality, I might think my labor is worth $80,000. So yes, they are pushing maybe the wages up as a whole, but on an individual level, they're actually hurting some workers and the ability for some workers to negotiate their pay. And so that's why I think it should be up to the individual to dictate with their employer how much their skill and labor is worth. The article goes on to say, Owens, speaking on Fox News Hannity, said, "I will say this, with AOC, you never let facts get in the way of a good story." You know what I mean? That is her motto. Personally, I think we should give her the Nobel Prize in Economics. If we got Andrew Cuomo winning an Emmy for his coronavirus briefings, despite the fact that he was allowing people to die, why not award AOC the Nobel Prize in Economics? You know that had to piss the left off. I love the analogy. Again, Candace Owens is great, but AOC does say crazy things. She doesn't want to deal with facts. She just wants to deal with her feelings. All jokes aside, if you want a good laugh, if you're having a rough day at the office, you're having a rough day at home, or you're just having a rough day with the wife and kids, or whatever it may be, if you want a good laugh, do nothing more than go over to AOC's Twitter page and just have a good read. It's just... the crazy stuff that comes out of this woman's mouth, and she was elected, is just mind-boggling, and it's nothing but pure comedy. There's people out there that actually think like this. I mean, if you want to go even further than that, just read her Green New Deal, and it's just, you can't believe that a college-educated person just thinks like this, but, you know, I really appreciate Candace Owens. I'm glad that she's over at the Daily Wire now working with them. I can't be more excited for her show. But here we have it. Candace Owens chiming in on AOC's ideology in terms of minimum wage. Our last news story of the day is dealing with the real Slim Shady, Eminem, and how Generation Z is trying to cancel him. I'll tell you what, this stuff is nuts, man. It's endless. It's in the news all the time. The left and the Democrats just love canceling people they don't like. It was Gina Carano, then they were targeting Rosario Dawson, then it was Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy and the Muppets, then it was Dr. Seuss yesterday, then it's Amazon trying to get rid of books that they find offensive. Now it's bookstores finding stuff they find offensive like eBay. And here we have Eminem, a rapper, now being hit for his speech in rap songs. So there's a short article here by our friends over at Blaze Media. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but I do want to highlight a few points that Chris Pandolfo makes in his article that's titled, Generation Z Wants to Cancel Eminem. Will the real Slim Shady please stand up? Will you please stand up? Millennials who know better laugh. A generational war has erupted on social media. This is where we're at as a culture. We're fighting over rappers now. Oh, man. All right, let's read this. Eminem fans on social media are in an uproar over a campaign from Generation Z TikTok users to cancel the controversial rapper. Videos from millennials defending Eminem, whose real name is Marshall Mathers, trended on Twitter and TikTok in response to demands from Zoomers, youngsters identifying as members of Gen Z. The Eminem be canceled because of his history of violent, abusive, and otherwise controversial lyrics. It all started with one TikTok video posted in February condemning the rapper's 2010 hit song, Love the Way You Lie. 2010, talk about going up and digging up some history. Jeez, man. Again, they'll just find anything and everything to be offensive about, no matter where it was at in history, when it was written. It all doesn't matter. That person finds it offensive and they got to complain about it. Look, you don't like it, don't listen to it. Featuring a collaboration with Rihanna. The video condemns the lyrics, if she ever tries to bleep and leave again, I'ma tie her to the bed and set this house on fire. I don't know much rap. I don't listen to rap, so it's look, I'm not into it. It's not a good thing to say, but it's also something I don't want to cancel. There's a demographic for it. People like this music, so they should be able to listen to it. I don't like it, so I don't listen to it. I'm not sitting there trying to cancel the guy, which obviously would be an act of domestic violence against women. To everyone that is canceling him, I literally love you, the TikTok user wrote, firing a shot that began a generational war. Eminem's fans counterattacked against the Gen Z haters with their own videos. The most popular response has more than 6.3 million views and is from a millennial woman who raps, "Listen, little kiddies, let me make this quite clear. This man was around even before you were here." She goes on to blast the rapper's favored by Gen Z as mumbling gibberish. Tell the kids their opinions don't matter and say one day you'll grow up and see how everyone went and forgot about Gen Z. Okay. I don't know if there's songs to this. I'm just reading it. Some of the replies point out that Eminem's brand is writing controversial lyrics and having haters try to cancel him. I'll tell you what, this might actually get me into rap a little bit. I would love to see a rapper just destroy a little leftist that's trying to destroy them in a controversial beat and hearing the leftists complain about it. That might get me into rap. All jokes aside, look, I'm not a big fan of rap. I get that there's a whole market out there. There's people that resonate with these lyrics. I know that there's some good rap songs out there. There's some clean rap songs out there. And then there's some rap songs that are clearly not clean. There's some rap songs that say very derogatory things towards men and women, which is why I choose not to listen to it. And look, if you don't like what that person's saying, then don't listen to them. If you don't like watching a person, then don't watch them. And you'll be a lot happier in life. But clearly there's some people, especially youngsters, that have too much time on their hands and they're going around just trying to cancel everybody because they have nothing better to do. This stuff just gets exhausting to talk about. I mean, it's day in and day out, and now you have people, youngsters, that are trying to cancel the older generation for the things that they're saying, and now you have people trying to cancel rappers for saying controversial things when rappers are known to be controversial. So it's just like, what's going on in the world? Especially in the United States culture. I don't know what's going on, but my hope is that it stops. I hope through these videos that you can at least find some humor behind it, even though it is a serious topic. But my hope is at some point, all this stuff disappears. And that is all the news I have for you today. If you liked this video, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Share it with your friends and family on social media. Today is Friday, so I hope that you have a blessed Saturday and Sunday. And I'll see you Monday here on The Bald Brad Show.